7 minutes past 12. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mari Makwanda. Today, on our segment with Islamic Careline, we will be talking about the importance of physical intimacy in marriage and the consequences of the lack thereof. Would it surprise you to know that there are health benefits in holding hands with your partner as perhaps you're walking down the street or embracing them when you return home or when they return home at the end of the day? Research evidence tells us that the presence of intimacy in our lives, the feeling of being understood, the feeling of being accepted and cared for strongly influences our overall physical and emotional well being. Now, I'm not going to give too much away on this here because I'm no expert, but here to tell us more is Anisa Moosa, the Chief Social Worker at Islamic Careline. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Anisa. Shukran for joining me.
Walaikum salam to you, Sister Mariam, to all the listeners. And just on that note, neither am I the expert. I think maybe that brings up a valid issue when it comes to physical intimacy, is that it's such a personal and unique part of any relationship, and it's so specific to the people in the relationship, and that's what makes it so special, and that by definition is what makes it so intimate.
Now, let's start off, by you telling us why this topic of physical intimacy in a marriage is so important. Why do we need to talk about it?
Okay, I think just to start out with, Sister Miriam, you mentioned a very, very important point, and that is that intimacy is a human need. So when we talk about intimacy, and intimacy is quite broad, it looks at affection as well, and warmth, and that human touch, and that human connection. But also when we talk about physical intimacy, we're talking about the physical relationship between two spouses in particular. Why is the topic relevant is, I think, working in the field and doing marital counseling, we see that that's an area that couples even struggle with, and it affects the whole relationship because it's an important part of a relationship, like how elements of other dynamics in the relationship would affect the physical relationship. In the same way, how couples engage physically would have an impact on the other areas of their marital life.
All right. Now, when it comes to physical intimacy, there's sometimes misunderstanding there. So, can you please tell us what's the difference between physical affection and physical intimacy?
Okay, so when we talk about affection, we're talking about the warmth that's part of any relationship, whether it be parent-child relationship. It's about showing that human connection between two people, and it's not specific to a relationship like a spousal relationship or one where there's attraction or in particular, the physical or sexual relationship between a husband and wife. But it doesn't also exclude it. So when we talk about affection and we talk about intimacy, that would include affection that spouses share between each other, or they show between each other.
And that can be simple things like, like I mentioned earlier, holding hands when you walk down the street, or, the hug that you give your partner when they come back from work, etc. It's those small things that matter the most. Now, what are the factors that influence the physical intimacy between spouses?
Okay, so I think the one thing is your comfort with each other, right? The other thing is even elements around health and physical needs at a given time. So it could be how well you are to be physical with your partner and even feeling that sense of enjoyment and pleasure. The other thing is also when it comes to self-esteem, and self-esteem particularly related to self-image or body image, which is how do I feel about my outward appearance. And I mentioned comfort. So when we talk about physical comfort in my own body or in my own space, and that would then affect my comfort with my partner in an intimate relationship. Um, the other thing is also how we've been socialized. I think culturally also what influences our perception. So how have we brought up? Like take for example in a community where, let's say, where culture and tradition affects, and we ask, okay, so what makes me a good spouse? What makes me a good wife? Is it my ability to cook? Is it how well do I lead your family? How do I take care of my household? And I think that's an important thing, because even as, let's say, as Muslim women or as Indian women, let's say, for example, and I'm not exactly sure, in other cultures and other ethnic groups, but so we not. We made to believe that, even take for example, when it comes to gender, do women initiate, or is it the male's responsibility to initiate? And if I can't do all the other things, and if I need to keep up, and then that tires me out because I'm too busy trying to do all the other things and fulfill my roles and my responsibility, but little do I realize that possibly there's the neglecting of this very important part of a marital relationship. And then it leads to, let's say, for example, spouses looking outside of the relationship to fulfill those intimate physical needs. And then also related to how we've been socialized, or what constitutes a good spouse, what makes a good spouse, is also our perceptions and our beliefs around sexual intimacy. Some people might look at it as, oh, we don't talk about it, it's taboo. But little do we understand, or we need to embrace, that it's such an important part. And Islamically also, it was given to mankind as a gift in a marital relationship, in a safe space where two people can express themselves physically and naturally, in a very halal way. And then also, and just this is just on the side, but also something that we see that affects the relationship could be even things like addiction. So your external stuff like pornography, substance abuse. Those are topics that are very, very relevant, and it's seriously affecting how we look at our sexual relationships, how it's defined. Is it based on ideals and ideas of what things should be like? And also creating unrealistic expectations around the physical relationship, or even placing demands on spouses.
Right, Anisa, let's take a quick break. And when we return, how does the physical relationship between the spouse changes in the different stages in the marriage? Because once you get married, you are in the honeymoon phase, everything and everyone is lovey-dovey. And then all of a sudden things go down. It's like, whee, then down. All right, so let's chat about that when we return.
Sure.
Syria or orphanages in Yemen, the eyes of the needy speak volumes with just one glare. We know what it's like to be at ground zero, with food essentials, clothing and blankets, fresh water portal trucks, and even on-site navigators. We use every cent to better their tomorrow. Become part of our journey to bring relief to all. Go to www.ashrafulaid.org or call us on 011 809 8181. Ashraful Aid, under the auspices of Maulana Suhail Wadi.
Babu, why don't you loosen your belt a bit more?
But why now?
Well, it's very tight, blocking air to your brain.
Haju, this is only a start. I need to tighten up a bit more. Funds are tight and the cost of living is high.
Funds are not tight. It's your haram insurance which is tightening our barakat.
Okay, Haju. I will call my insurance friend tomorrow.
Maybe I must tighten up on my cooking from now on too.
No, Haju, we don't need to tighten up. It's okay. Look, I'm even throwing away my belt.
Don't tighten your belt. Change your insurance. Leaving Riba Insurance is easier than you think. Call Amana IFS for all your personal and commercial takaful needs. 0861 786 393. Amana, leave Riba for good. Amana IFS is a registered financial services provider.
Thousands of Syrian Palestinian refugees and Lebanese children do not have access to education. Aman means safety and is a school that provides formal education from kindergarten to grade 9. Africa Muslims Agency aims to provide 650 children with education that will change the trajectory of their lives and their families' lives. Fulfill your intention by fulfilling their dreams. Donate 16,000 Rand per child or any amount. Go to africamuslimsagency.co.za or call us on 011 834 8685. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamities. For child-headed households in Bloemendal in the Eastern Cape, the daily diet consists of white bread and a carton of cheap juice or sugar water, known locally as the poppy water diet. Make a difference to that one child or family. The Al-Fida Foundation has over the past 13 years worked on the ground and gathered the largest database in the Eastern Cape region of Muslim Zakah recipients. Phone our offices at 041 484 1288 or visit our website at www.alfida.co.za. The Al-Fida Foundation, your social investment partner in the Eastern Cape.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media, and we are talking physical intimacy on our segment with Islamic Care Line today. And Anisa Moosa, the Chief Social Worker, is our guest. If you have any comments or questions, you may leave them in the comment section below or send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 069 766 0355. Anisa, shukran for staying with us. Now, you know, when you get married, you know, everything is all lovey-dovey. Everything is always, it's beautiful, it's fun. You know, people talk about the honeymoon stage because that you go on honeymoon and then you come back and you're still all lovey-dovey. You know, everything is great until a couple of years down the line and things just go down. And you know, besides the fight, things changes, the dynamics changes, kids are involved, etc. And the physical intimacy becomes less and less as the couple grows older, or I don't know, some even grow apart like that. Now, how does the physical relationship change in the different stages of the marriage?
Okay, I think firstly, I just wanted to clarify on, you know, we speak about the honeymoon phase and we speak about it in a very positive way. And alhamdulillah, it can be a very, very positive experience where, like, you know, you used the whole lovey-dovey, almost like cloud nine, and then slowly, slowly you come down to reality, I think, and you face the real issues around being in a relationship. But I think also there's misconceptions about the honeymoon. And I think what's happening is, because we're labeling it the honeymoon, I think it also sets very high expectations and we don't realize that the honeymoon phase is as happy and as pleasant, as enjoyable as it can be. There's also a lot of adjustment that goes into that phase of the relationship, not only physically but also in other ways. So going back then to the physical intimacy part of it, I think again, you know, the reality is that young people are also exploring physically outside of the marriage. So by the time they get into a relationship, there's also these expectations. And remembering that, just as the honeymoon phase is about adjusting in other areas, you're also adjusting to a new person. And I think it's about getting to know one another physically, like how you're getting to know each other in other ways, you're also getting to know each other physically. And it's about being open to learning about each other, learning about yourself also. So I think we cannot emphasize the importance of opening ourselves up to getting to know each other and learning each other. And remember that the physical relationship, like I said earlier, is a very unique, private, and intimate one. And it can be very special if we own it and we make it ours between ourselves and our partner. And we create it so that it's fulfilling for both partners and not just one-sided, or where you don't want to create a relationship where one person doesn't want to be intimate with the other. It needs to be mutually enjoyable. So that's the one thing. And then obviously as you starting a family, pregnancy can be taxing on couples, especially where there's higher risk pregnancies. So there's an exercise of restraint, and I know that can be difficult for two people in a relationship. Then the whole parenting thing. So when after the children are born, depending on how many children you have, we get caught up in our own rights, we get caught up in our routines, responsibilities and our roles, and people are tired, spouses are tired. Like I said, there's just demands of work, there's stress, there's trauma, there's all kinds of things. And so it may affect not only the physical relationship, but that closeness, like you mentioned earlier, Sister Miriam, that people grow apart. I think that we don't give enough attention to the whole relationship, including the physical relationship. And then also as the relationship grows, we grow. So we may grow, like you said, you're either growing apart or you're growing together, but you also grow in terms of maturity. You change, your outlook changes. Are you changing together? Are you growing? And are you giving time and attention to your physical relationship, or even to your relationship as a whole during those changes and through that growth period? And then obviously, as we get older, we age, our body changes, we have hormonal fluctuations. And so how does that affect our relationships? And then again, like the parenting phase was one where we were very busy, very active. You reach the empty nest phase where the two of you are now, your children are grown up, you left together to spend more time together. How is that relationship change? And now you find yourself in a space where you have to be with this person. Have they become a stranger to you, or is it someone that you've still grown to love irrespective and still share a very close bond with? And again, there's nothing wrong with being physical, but obviously the relationship might change and adapts with you. But again, giving attention to the physical relationship even when your children are grown up, and still fulfilling that physical need for each other even at that stage of your marriage.
Now, earlier on, you mentioned a very important point, like addiction, and there is a big problem in our community with addiction to pornography as well as substance abuse, and that it impacts the relationship on a whole new level, especially when you get into the relationship, you are in the honeymoon phase, and then there's a lot of expectations from you. You are this person who has no clue on how to be physically intimate with your partner, and your partner just expects you to do something that they have seen. How do we move past that? It's not easy to get to know a person unless you live with them, and you would not be able to tell that, okay, this person is addicted to pornography, and then they're going to be wanting one or two or three things from me.
Okay, so the one thing is, yes, and you mentioned a valid point when you said you get into a relationship and you don't know what's expected of you. And I think that's relevant when it comes to, we mentioned earlier to what extent, how we socialize and what have we been taught about our physical intimacy. And most often than not, we've been taught nothing. From reliable sources. So there's an absence of support, there's an absence of awareness. We've just expected to do something or know about something that we haven't been guided on, right? And that's also because there's a general discomfort to talk about a topic like this because it's considered to be so sensitive, right? So that's the one thing. And then the other thing is when you mentioned addiction and it places a strain. So, again, the effects of addiction on a relationship, and including when we speak about addiction, we speak about porn, and porn addiction is very real, and it also then creates unrealistic expectations. So it takes me into the next question about how do we, or the next issue is how can we help or support our physical relationships with our spouses. And the one thing is about setting boundaries or respecting one another. So when we respect each other, we take into consideration what makes us comfortable, what we open to and what we're not open to. And I think this is why I say the physical relationship is not an isolated aspect of the marriage. It's part and parcel of all the other areas. So when you look at it that way, where there's respect for one another, we find fulfillment in that need because we have an emotional bond with a person, because we love them. It's not where we're having physical relationship with a stranger and it's based only on whether the person satisfies you or gratifies you physically, but it comes from being complemented by other areas of the relationship. So that's the one thing around respecting each other's boundaries and what makes each other comfortable, but also about learning. And I think it can be a very fun experience for two people, especially in a new relationship, to learn about each other's bodies, learn about their own bodies, like I mentioned earlier. But another thing that's very, very important is also being able to communicate it. And I think that's where we struggle. And it also has a spilling over from what I spoke about earlier is about my own self-esteem, my own body image. How comfortable am I in my own body? What makes me comfortable enough to address these things with my partner, to communicate with my partner about what makes me comfortable, what I'm okay with, what I'm not okay with, what I'm willing to explore, what I'm not willing to explore. So that's extremely important throughout. I think, we always speak about the importance of effective communication in a relationship. And I think we underestimate the role of something like communication. You would think, what does communication have to do with physical gratification? But it's an important part. And then also it's about bonding. It's about attachment. It's about, again, getting to know each other on both physical and non-physical level and understanding who we are and finding gratification from that. It's also about acceptance. And when we talk about pornography, it's about accepting our partner for who they are. Again, related to other areas of a relationship. If I say, I'm getting married, but I need to accept my partner for who they are with their strengths and their growth areas. In the same way, again, pornography has made us have this idea that the physical, the body image needs to be perfect, but we all know that we have physical flaws, and it's about accepting your partner's physical flaws for what they are, right? Then even your appearance. So your physical appearance, how comfortable are you with your physical appearance? And again, having your partner love you for who you are with your flaws. Then I'm going to mention something, and I know lots of people have become, in the last few years, become familiar with the concept of the 5 love languages, and recognizing when my love language is physical touch. Also, generally, we know that men tend to be more visual than women. Women are more emotional and enjoy the affection. So again, understanding the gender differences between spouses. And again, for me, the last thing that I've mentioned is the issue of ownership, and it's about owning your relationship as yours and how you nurture it, taking responsibility for it. Because again, I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the program, but I think I haven't emphasized it enough. And this is when we stop taking care of our physical relationship, that our partners may look elsewhere to fulfill those needs. And we know that in today's times, divorce is rife, polygamous marriages is rife, infidelity is rife, and we certainly want to do our best to protect our own relationship. The other thing is also our physical appearance. We cannot take for granted that just because I'm married, I need to stop taking care of how we need to make time to look good for our partners. You might think it's superficial, it's unimportant, but it is important, because that element of attraction between two people in a relationship is what keeps the relationship together. It's one of the things that keeps the relationship together. It's also a message. When I stop taking care of how I look, I'm in a way saying, I don't care how my partner sees me, and it's okay, but it's not. We should be able to look after that part of our relation, to care enough, to care that how my partner sees me is important to me.
I'm going to leave it there with time not being on our side, but we as a community, we need to start having open conversations even more, on such topics: intimacy, physical intimacy, sexual intimacy, etc. We need to start addressing the issue of pornography that we have, and the expectations, the unrealistic expectations that are required, when a couple gets married, a young couple gets married, because you will also find that the situation